tell us a bit about your route into journalism, magazine journalism?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I suppose it was one of those things that I kind of thought was for other people. It's something I always wanted to do. And so when I was at university, I was sort of a bit involved in the university newspaper, but again, it kind of felt like something that other people were much more clued in on and knew a lot more about. And then subsequent to that, I just saw a job advert when I was living in Leeds and went to work for the Press Association, where I was working on newspapers for a couple of years. And then, you kind of realise that London's sort of where it's at. So I just moved to London. And the first job I got, and I applied for many, was working on a medical magazine for Haymarket Publications. I was there for a couple of years and sort of got my feet under the table and started to understand things. And wanted to move on to the next level. I was working in production, I was working as a sub-editor. And the two jobs I were offered were, one was for the Financial Times and one was for PC Advisor. It was 10 years ago. And I don't know why, I really fancied the kind of magazine side of things. Rather than going back into newspapers, and yeah, I've been here for 10 years. I mean, we've been a web-first publication, I would say, for about 5 years. But even until about 2 years ago, the kind of structure of making a print magazine still dominated, because if you're going to make a monthly print magazine, there are certain things you have to do. So you would have a very quiet week, and then 2 reasonably busy weeks, and then this week, actually, press week, a really heavy week. Actually, what happens now, much more often, is that we're constantly producing lots of content, principally for the website, and then it gets a little bit busier just for press week, just because we're selecting the best bits to go in the magazine, but it's a much more even flow, really. So we have a fairly informal meeting on Monday mornings where one of my colleagues has done some analysis of what's happening from a search perspective to see where there are potential targets for us to attack, if you like. But basically the editors are coming with ideas, things they've seen, press releases, new products that they've seen, and we come up with some ideas, and inevitably the few ideas that people come with will morph into lots of different other ideas, and we sort of go from there, really. I think it's kind of bad to say that's a bad idea, the whole idea of there are no bad ideas. Clearly there are bad ideas, but there's usually a germ of something interesting in there. And one of the nice things about trying to be more collective, trying to have all the editors involved in the discussion, is that hopefully things kind of go off in different directions. And when the print magazine was the main thing, you'd get things like people would say, everyone loves this section. The audience love this section. And you don't really know. What you're saying is what we like. We actually know pretty much how successful a story is going to be almost before we do it, which is kind of dangerous, because it means you can only do, you end up only doing the successful stories, and actually that's wrong. We're here to provide information about all consumer technology, and it's important that we do that, even the things that we know aren't going to be as popular immediately as other things. Our focus is very much on online publishing, and print is a part of that, but it's a very, we've got 17,000 print readers, we've got 5.5 million online readers, so you do the math. 10 years ago, a magazine called PC Advisor was about beige boxes that had PCs in them, that was the second most expensive thing you bought, more expensive than your car in those days, and you bought it and it had to last you for 5 years, and it was a thing that you did computer things on, so it was work. I mean, when I started here 10 years ago, the majority of people didn't have broadband. Actually, a big chunk of people didn't have any internet connectivity at home at all. Now, I think I saw a study the other day that said the average person carries 2.9 computers, so smartphones, tablets, laptops, when they're walking about the place. So yeah, absolutely, the subject matter's completely changed, and we've had to adapt with it, which is one of the reasons why our print circulation's a lot smaller and our online circulation's exploded, is that the way people consume information has changed, but the things they want to read about have completely changed. I don't want to have people who are working only on print, because one day we won't do print, and all my team are good people, and I don't want them to kind of be sent down a sort of a route that's got a bad end, if you like. So what we do, the principle is that we work mainly for the website, because we do a lot more online than we can fit into print, and then we select the best things for print at the end of the month, basically. This week alone, I spent a day interviewing readers for a ad campaign, which was kind of weird and kind of fun. meeting readers is always a terrifying experience.
Have you always found that?
No. I mean, I'm being silly. It was weird because it was just different. It's not something I do regularly, and it was for a commercial campaign, so it's just completely different. I've literally just finished writing a review of a keyboard and mouse, which is about as kind of basic as what we do gets. Last week we spent all night live blogging the Samsung Galaxy S4 launch. This year I've been to San Francisco. I'm going to Munich, Edinburgh and Madrid in the next couple of months, which you kind of get blasé about, and to be honest with you, it's a bit of a pain at times, and my wife gets very annoyed with me, but at the same time, my personality is such that I would get bored if I was doing the same thing all the time. And what I love is that I work with people who are passionate about what we're doing. It's fun, and we're giving people objective advice. It changes all the time. The subject matter changes. The way we're addressing the subject matter changes. You can see the results all the time. It's kind of fun, I think, and it's not important, but in a good way. The world's pretty big, and the people who might buy your print magazine are almost certainly completely separate people to those who look on your website. At the end of the day, what we have to focus on as editors is creating the best possible content and trusting that the people we need to reach are going to find us wherever we are. It's the same principle we've put in our content on Facebook, on Google+, on Twitter. It's different formats of the same stuff, but as long as people are finding us when they're looking for technology information, then we're doing our job right. I think in a weird way, it's a really good time to go into magazine publishing. People will tell you it's a bad time because you'll see reduction in the number of print magazines there are out there. But the barrier to getting into the industry in terms of creating a website is a lot easier than creating a print magazine. So what I would say is always to be flexible in your thinking and to be passionate about something and to be an expert in something. And you will find that there is an audience for what you're doing somewhere. Editors have a very little control over the commercial side of the business. So you can be doing a brilliant job as an editor and your magazine can just disappear. Right. And that's life. But I think, as I say, the barriers to entry has never been smaller. So if you want to be in this game, it's got to be something you're passionate about and you enjoy. But I think if you're flexible in your approach and you look at everything from the traditional newspapers and magazines through blogs and all sorts of new interesting stuff's happening now, there are opportunities out there and just to kind of believe in yourself, really.